Good morning, this is Deepak. Today is Thursday, June 1st, and today I'm taking a break from answering your questions on You Are the Universe and discovering your cosmic self, the discussions we do every day on discoveringyourcosmicself.com. The reason I'm taking a break is that it's my very special privilege and honor today to actually announce the publication of a new book by my friend Rupert Spira. It's called The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter. The author again is Rupert Spira. So let me give you a little background on Rupert and my friendship with him. I met him just over 2 or 3 years ago at a conference called Science and Non-Duality. He was conducting a workshop and he was also doing morning meditations, so I attended all of them, and this was a very wonderful workshop in San Jose, and then I attended another workshop and meditation that he gave in Esalen, and I immediately realized that Rupert was a rare jewel amongst the teachers of non-duality. You know, through the ages there have been great teachers of non-duality, starting with the sages of the Upanishads, the perennial philosophers, both East and West, what we call Sanatana Dharma, Sanatana Dharma in India, the eternal knowledge of the self. And also there have been many contemporary teachers of non-duality that I admire. But Rupert is extraordinary and is a luminary amongst luminaries. I have to say this with all honesty. And as I savored every moment of my experience when he taught meditation and when he answered questions, I really felt compelled to invite him also to the Chopra Center to actually teach meditation and do some sessions at the Seduction of Spirit course at the Chopra Center, which we do about twice a week. So I've studied Rupert's work now. I've looked at his videos on YouTube. I've seen him teach live. I've read his previous books. And so it was an amazingly extraordinary experience for me to read his latest book, The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter. Why do I say that Rupert and his teaching is unique and very, very insightful, when there are so many teachers of non-duality that have been there through the ages and even today in our contemporary times? I can say very honestly that Rupert is not only intellectually knowledgeable about the nature of the self, but he's also a very humble person, and he exemplifies in his humility and in his simplicity and in his I would say almost subdued way of teaching the nature of reality and what happens to people when they not only intellectually understand the nature of the self, but they are living it. So for that reason, I was very honored to write the foreword to his book, The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter. And I would like to encourage you to buy this book and to also visit Rupert's website, and I will post some links later on Twitter, over here on Facebook, on deepakchopra.com, and on jayo.com as well, where we have 2 of his meditations incidentally as well. So let me first of all just read the chapters. I have the foreword, as I said, and I'm very honored. The introduction is about the hard problem of consciousness, which, as you know, we've talked about it many times. The hard problem of consciousness is that we cannot explain consciousness as an epiphenomenon of matter, or for that matter, as an epiphenomenon or a production of the brain. Because even the brain is an experience, the understanding and knowledge of that object that we call brain is itself an experience and a knowing in our own consciousness. And the brain as object is a perceptual process in consciousness, a modified form of consciousness, in the same way as this pen that I'm holding, in the same way as this hand, this body, or the painting of Shiva behind me. So trying to explain consciousness as an activity of the brain is like trying to explain a dream, but through a dream being explained by a dream. In any case, we've discussed the hard problem of consciousness endlessly. In fact, I'm going this week to the Science of Consciousness conference in San Diego that is going to talk about the hard problem of consciousness. But when you understand non-duality and the nature of consciousness, you'll see there's no hard problem of anything. It's crystal clear that your mind, your body, and the universe that you experience, everything, from paintings to walls to the Empire State Building to the streets in New York to the stars and galaxies to that which we call quanta and everything, rocks, minerals, plants, animals, human beings. These are all mental constructs around the knowing and experience of our own self, the self, awareness, pure consciousness, being, modifying itself into all knowers, all modes of knowing and all things known, modifying itself into every seer, every seeing, and every scenery. The hard problem of consciousness does not exist. Chapter 1, the nature of mind. Chapter 2, only awareness is aware. Chapter 3, panpsychism and the consciousness-only model. Chapter 4, the inward-facing path, the distinction between consciousness and objects. Chapter 5, the direct path to enlightenment. Chapter 6, self-inquiry and self-remembering. Chapter 7, the experience of being aware. Chapter 8, the essence of meditation. Chapter 9, the outward-facing path, collapsing the distinction between consciousness and objects. Chapter 10, existence is identical to awareness. Chapter 11, the white radiance of eternity, a phrase that I love. Chapter 12, the focusing of consciousness. Chapter 13, there are no states of consciousness. You'll see why he says that. Chapter 14, Wordsworth and the longing for God. Chapter 15, the shared medium of mind. Chapter 16, the memory of our eternity. Chapter 17, consciousness's dream. Chapter 18, the search for happiness. And then there's an afterword by Bernardo Kastrup, who is also a great non-dual philosopher and a friend of mine as well as Rupert. So I'm not really going to read it to you from the book because I'd really like you to get this book, study the kernels of wisdom here, the pearls of wisdom here, and get insight into the nature of the self, both directly, intellectually, and experientially. Just in the beginning of the introduction, Rupert quotes Max Planck as saying, "I regard consciousness as fundamental, I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." In the same page of the introduction, Rupert says, "This revolution is an inner one and addresses the very core of our knowledge of ourselves, upon which all subsequent knowledge and understanding must be based." Later in the introduction, Rupert says, "In this book, it is suggested that consciousness is the fundamental underlying reality of the apparent duality of mind and matter, and that the overlooking, forgetting, or ignoring of this reality is the root cause of both the existential unhappiness that pervades and motivates most people's lives and the wider conflicts that exist between communities and nations. Conversely, it is suggested that the recognition of the fundamental reality of consciousness is the prerequisite and a necessary and sufficient condition for an individual's quest for lasting happiness, and at the same time the foundation for world peace." As you know, my goal in all these endeavors of mine through the Chopra Foundation is to reach a critical mass of people, at least 1 billion, so that we can all move in the direction of a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier and happier world. And I honestly believe that Rupert's teachings, and this book in particular, The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter, can help accelerate that need for critical mass of deeper understanding of the nature of reality. So I'll close today's podcast just by saying that if you read the perennial philosophies, particularly from the East, and if you understand Vedanta, then you may have come across the expression 5 kleshas. The 5 kleshas. Kleshas is a Sanskrit word for the nature of human suffering. So kleshas means causes of human suffering. Kleshas means causes for human suffering or of human suffering. Here are the 5 causes of human suffering. Number 1, not knowing the true nature of reality or the self. Number 2, clinging and grasping at that which is ephemeral, transitory, impermanent, a wisp of experience that arises and is gone before you can even grasp it. Number 3, recoiling from impermanence. Number 4, identifying with a constricted self, which is essentially a socially constructed hallucination called the ego. And number 5, the fear of death. And the great teachers of Sanatana Dharma, the great teachers of perennial philosophies tell us that all the causes of suffering are contained in the first one, not knowing the nature of reality or the self. So know that one thing, by knowing which everything else is known. And that one thing is the self of the individual, the self of the awareness that modifies itself into knowing and experience, and ultimately that which we call the mind, body, and universe. These modes of knowing are sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, sift, as I said before, qualia. See, I'm wearing this shirt called Camp Qualia, Dooby Dooby Doo. being and doing. Being and doing are extreme opposites. In between is sensation, image, feeling, thought, and sense perceptions, that which we call qualia. And qualia are the raw material of experience, and qualia are engendered, generated in the self. They are known in the self, and as qualities of consciousness, qualia, they're made out of the self. The self modifies itself, qualifies itself, and modulates itself as all that we call reality. But all that we call reality is a dream in the self. The self is the only reality. And so once you know that, you are free. You are free from the constructs that human beings have given to reality. Constructs like mind, body, universe, and constructs like birth, death. And once you free yourself from the construct, you can be in the world and not orbit at the same time. You realize your infinite nature as being, and reality, or so-called everyday reality, as the projection of the infinite being in the realm of that which we call space-time and causality. All part of the projection of the limited self. Beyond the constraints of the limited self, you are the infinite being, the non-local being having a local experience, which is really a different way of saying what Teilhard de Chardin said. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So once again, my friends, it is my great honor to introduce to you The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter. The author, one of the greatest teachers of our time, Rupert Spira. And you will ripen like a good fruit into self-awareness, and one day that fruit will fall into the pureness of being and enlightenment. This is a very good book, and I totally am honored, literally, to introduce you to this. Today is the first day of publication, and you can find it, I'm sure, on Amazon, but you'll be finding links to it on deepakchopra.com, on the YouTube version of today's video, on jayo.com, on Twitter, and it could be your guide to enlightenment. So read it, and listen to Rupert, and something will trigger in your awareness, and if you're lucky, you might actually fall into enlightenment. Okay, take care, have a good day. Once again, the book is The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter. And in the meanwhile, doobie doobie doo.